Prince Harry did an interview of former President Barack Obama. This was for the BBC, and Obama had some pretty interesting things to say about social media and how it contributes to the divide among Americans. Now, I don't want to put words in his mouth. Let's take a look at the first video. One
of the dangers of the internet is that people can have entirely different realities. They can be just cocooned in information that reinforces their current biases.
So he really hones in on something that I think is important and doesn't get talked about enough. The fact that, search engines and social media sites like Facebook want to cater to you, and the way that they do it is by using algorithms that allow you to see things that reinforce whatever your biases already are. So you kind of exist in this little bubble, whether it's a conservative bubble or a liberal bubble, progressive bubble, and you are not exposed to other perspectives that might disagree with what you already believe, but could challenge your ideas and force you to think about things from a different perspective. This is something I talk about with my journalism students a lot. DuckDuckGo, which is a search engine that gets rid of that algorithm, is an important tool to use if you want search results that will give you a different perspective, right? But yeah, a lot of people aren't even aware of this.
Yeah, but I think that Obama's playing it safe there a little bit. And again, my problem here is that it's not even. So now there's some left-wing sites that make up stuff. And if I ever see a left-wing site that has wrong information, especially one that I think they did on purpose, I'm done with them. Because what are you gonna do? You're gonna rely on them, and then all it's gonna do is get you in trouble. And it serves no purpose at all to deceive your audience. And so in our case, we've been around now 16 years, 12 years on the internet. That you earn the trust of the audience, right? And I don't want to throw that away. And I care about the facts. And if it turns out the facts are not on our side, as has happened to me many times as I've transitioned to being a progressive throughout the last couple of decades, well then I've shown you over and over again, I don't change the facts to my opinion, I change my opinion to suit the facts, right? So, but as I've begin to see it happen a little bit on the left, that's all there is on the right. So to say like, oh, we're cocooned, well, okay, that's true, and I think it's a really important point, and I'm glad Obama's making it. But one side is cocooned in largely a reality-based world, another side's cocooned on Mars and on island insanity. So look, half the stuff you see in right wing is made up. It's made up. It's not an even playing field. So I mean, there's another story in the news today about how a lot of people think that Donald Trump already killed Obamacare. Why? They read it on a right-wing website, and it's not true.
Or they heard it from Trump himself, who essentially said that he's repealed Obamacare. We'll get to that story in a minute. But you're right, Cenk. There are two issues at play here, because there's the fake news component of it, the misleading disinformation that you see all over social media. That's a huge problem. But what I think is also a problem, and this is really the fault of the algorithms that are being utilized, is that sometimes, actually all the time, we're only exposed to one side of an issue because these websites or social media sites have decided that's all we want to see. And look, there's some truth in that, because remember, there have been studies done in the past that prove that if you give someone data or evidence that challenges their pre-existing notions or beliefs, they will reject it. There's definitely an issue with that. But it shouldn't be a situation where you have Facebook decide what you do and don't see because they've decided what it is that you will and won't like.
And look, I have to be honest about my perspective. My problem is that we don't fit into any of that stuff. We're the algorithm breakers, because the right wing watches our show maybe more than they watch any right wing show. They hate watch it, but keep driving audience to us, because you know what happens? Every day we get emails telling us, oh, I used to be a conservative idiot, and now I'm a progressive, and I understand that maybe it's actually a good idea to change to regard people with decency and treat them with decency. So look, the left wing watches us, the right wing watches us, and so I don't think this applies to us. But yes, a lot of people get the algorithm that they makes them feel more comfortable. it's an issue. But one side of the algorithm is filled with insanity and falsehoods, and the other side is largely true.
So I want to go to the second video because what Obama says here really resonated with me, and I think that some of you in the audience will agree. Take a look.
A good way of fighting against that is making sure that online communities don't just stay online, that they move offline. And what I mean by that is that I think the social media is a really powerful tool for people of common interests to convene and get to know each other and connect. But then it's important for them to get offline, meet in a pub,
get out into the community,
meet at a place of worship, meet in a neighborhood, and get to know each other. Because the truth is that on the internet, everything is simplified. And when you meet people face to face, it turns out they're complicated. It's also, by the way, harder to be as obnoxious and cruel in person as people can be anonymously on the internet.
I really love that point because it's true, people can be vicious little animals when they're online, but more importantly, when you meet someone in person, you get a better sense of their character, who they are, what their genuine concerns are. I remember during a recent flight back to Los Angeles from DC, I was seated next to a conservative woman from Virginia. And I don't know how we started talking about politics. It scared me a little bit in the beginning because I was worried that, it would get combative. But it wasn't combative at all. She had legitimate concerns, and the reason why she voted for Trump was because he spoke to those concerns and then later essentially reneged on those things. And so she was a sweet woman, she was a nice woman. And I feel like if we were to get into a debate on Facebook, I wouldn't get a sense of who she is. She wouldn't get a sense of who I am.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you. I 100% agree with Obama on this one. Mainly, look, man, go out in the world, have human interactions. It's a wonderful thing. It's probably overstated that we're not doing that. Of course, we still are doing that, but not enough. Join a group, and not a political one, right? Or maybe a political one that's nonpartisan. Wolf-pack.com. But in all honesty, and seriously, like the people who meet at Wolfpack to get money out of politics, they form unbreakable bonds for years and years and years, and they go and fight for the cause, and then they go have a beer, and they have just these great bonds, and it is nonpartisan. You know what? And when you talk to people, as those Wolfpack volunteers do, they realize that the number one concern, and that's why we're fighting that what we are, I'm just using it as an example, is number one concern for both Democrats and Republicans is the corruption in government. And once you have that conversation, you'd be shocked at how much you agree. So when I'm sitting on a plane with a conservative, it's happened a million times, and we have perfectly lovely conversations 98 out of 100 times, okay? And there's so many things we agree on. Isn't it terrible how the politicians are corrupt? Totally, right? Who corrupted them? Oh yeah, they get donations, or they serve their donors. I mean, that is one beginning point if you're gonna talk about politics, or you could talk about football or your family. And once you make it into a conservative circle of us, you're fine, and you'll have a normal conversation.
Right.
So go out there and meet people, break out of your bubbles, and don't break out of them violently, with anger. Just listen to each other for a second.
Just be inquisitive and try to understand where they're coming from, because there might be something that you're missing, and that's okay. It's okay to admit that.
You just watched a video by the Young Turks, home of the revolution. If you'd like to get a lot more than that, get the full show by becoming a member. tytnetwork.com/join.